everyone, Sarah here. Rewind Justice brings you revenge stories that will blow your mind. If you're ready, hit subscribe and let's go.
The wheelchair rolled backward 3 inches from the force of my father's kick. 17 relatives stopped mid-conversation in my parents' living room. "Alan, please," my mother said quietly, but she was looking at me, not him. Her expression said what her words didn't. "Why do you have to make things difficult?" I sat calmly in my wheelchair, hands folded in my lap. The man on the couch across from me, Dr. Robert Mitchell, my orthopedic surgeon, set down his eggnog with deliberate care. "Mr. Peterson," Dr. Mitchell said evenly. "I don't believe we've been properly introduced." My father turned, irritation still on his face. Then he went completely still. "Dr. Mitchell?" His voice cracked slightly. "What are you doing here?" "I was invited," Dr. Mitchell said simply, glancing at me. "By Emma." My mother's face cycled through confusion, recognition, then horror. "Emma, this is your father's surgeon. The one who did his knee replacement last year." "I know," I said pleasantly. "Dr. Mitchell and I are well acquainted. The car accident happened when I was 24. A drunk driver ran a red light and T-boned my sedan at 45 miles per hour. I woke up 3 days later in ICU with a shattered L4 vertebra, fractured pelvis, and severe nerve damage to my lower spine. The orthopedic team gave me the prognosis: I'd walk again probably. With extensive physical therapy, pain management, and surgical intervention. But I'd never walk normally. Chronic pain would be my constant companion. My father's response when I was transferred out of ICU: "So when can you go back to work?" I was a junior financial analyst at an investment firm, making $68,000 annually. I'd been on track for promotion. "Dad, I just had spinal fusion surgery. The recovery is 6 to 12 months. People recover from surgery all the time, Emma. You just have to push through it." My mother added, "Your cousin Michelle had back surgery and was back at work in 6 weeks. "Michelle had a herniated disc removed," I said. "I had vertebrae reconstructed with titanium rods." "Well, don't use it as an excuse to be lazy," Dad said. "That was 5 years ago. 5 years of physical therapy, pain management, 3 additional surgeries, and a permanent relationship with my wheelchair for bad days and my cane for good ones." My family's response to my disability evolved from, "You'll be fine soon," to "Why aren't you trying harder?" to finally, "You're embarrassing us." What they didn't know, what I deliberately didn't tell them, was everything else that happened in those 5 years. The insurance settlement from the drunk driver's employer, $4.7 million. My decision to invest that settlement with laser focus, using my financial analysis background to build a portfolio that grew to $8.3 million. My career pivot from financial analyst to healthcare economics consultant, specializing in medical research funding and hospital investment strategies. My position as Director of Medical Research Funding for the Apex Health Foundation, managing a $47 million annual grant budget. And my personal decision to fund spinal injury research. Starting with a $2.3 million grant to Dr. Robert Mitchell's orthopedic research program at University Medical Center. The same Dr. Mitchell who performed my surgeries. The same Dr. Mitchell who performed my father's knee replacement surgery last year. The same Dr. Mitchell who was now sitting on my parents' couch, watching my father kick my wheelchair. After the accident, while my family was suggesting I try yoga and think positive, I was rebuilding my entire life. The investment firm didn't want me back. They claimed it was organizational restructuring. My lawyer said it was disability discrimination. We settled out of court for $340,000. I used that money, plus the insurance settlement, to get 3 degrees online. A master's in healthcare administration, an MBA with a focus on nonprofit management, and certifications in medical grant writing. I worked from my bedroom, from physical therapy waiting rooms, from hospital beds during my follow-up surgeries. By year 2 post-accident, I was consulting for small healthcare nonprofits. By year 3, I was managing grant portfolios worth $8 million annually. The Apex Health Foundation recruited me at year 4. Your unique perspective, living with a disability while understanding healthcare finance, is exactly what we need. Director of Medical Research Funding. Salary, $165,000. Plus bonuses based on successful grant placements. I bought a fully accessible house. I hired a personal physical therapist. I invested aggressively in healthcare stocks and medical technology startups. My portfolio hit $8.3 million by year 5. My family knew none of this. To them, I was Emma who couldn't work anymore. Emma who lived off insurance money. Emma who showed up to family events in a wheelchair and made everyone uncomfortable. My brother Derek managed a sporting goods store and made $52,000 annually. My parents treated him like a Fortune 500 CEO. Derek just got promoted to assistant regional manager. Mom announced at every gathering. He's so dedicated. Works 60 hours a week. I worked 50 hours a week managing millions in medical research funding. But that didn't count because I did it from home in adaptive clothing, sometimes from my wheelchair. Dr. Mitchell knew everything, of course. He'd been my surgeon for all 4 of my spinal procedures. We developed a relationship that evolved from doctor-patient to colleagues to friends. Emma, he'd said during one of my post-op appointments 2 years ago, I'm developing a research program for spinal cord injury regeneration. The initial funding fell through. Do you know anyone in the grant world who might be interested? I smiled. Tell me about your research. 3 months later, I approved a $2.3 million grant to his program. The Apex Foundation's largest single grant that year. He didn't know it was my personal recommendation that pushed it through. Not until 6 months later when I told him over coffee. You funded my research? His eyes widened. Emma, that's your field? That's my job, I corrected. Director of Medical Research Funding. I allocate $47 million annually to programs like yours. Your family knows? No. Why not? I looked at him evenly. Because they've spent 5 years telling me I'm a burden. I don't need their validation anymore. He studied me. They're wrong about you. I know, I said. And eventually they'll know too. The invitation to Christmas dinner came in November. Emma, we're doing Christmas at the house this year, Mom said on the phone. Derek's bringing his new girlfriend. She works in hospital administration. I'll be there, I said. Will you need the wheelchair? Her tone suggested she hoped I wouldn't. Probably, I said. My pain levels had been higher lately. Weather changes always affected my spine. Well, we're setting up in the living room this year. The dining room is being renovated. Can you manage without, making a scene? I'll manage, Mom. And Emma? Maybe don't talk about your medical issues. Derek's girlfriend works with healthy people. It might make her uncomfortable. I hung up and looked at Dr. Mitchell, who'd stopped by my office to discuss his research program's progress. Family Christmas? He asked, reading my expression. Family Christmas, I confirmed. Where my brother's girlfriend will be showcased and I'll be hidden in a corner. What hospital does she work at? Mom didn't say. Dr. Mitchell leaned back in his chair. Emma, I have a terrible idea. Tell me. What if I came to Christmas dinner? I raised an eyebrow. Why would you do that? Because I'm curious, he said. I've been your surgeon for 5 years. I've watched you build an empire from a hospital bed. And I've heard you mention your family exactly 3 times, always in the context of them not understanding your disability. They don't want to understand it, I said. Understanding it would mean acknowledging I'm not lazy or dramatic. So let me come to dinner, he said. As your friend, who happens to be an orthopedic surgeon, who happens to run a research program you funded. I smiled slowly. That's devious, Dr. Mitchell. I prefer strategically informative, he said. Plus, I'm genuinely curious what kind of people raise someone as accomplished as you and somehow convince themselves you're unsuccessful. I didn't tell my family I was bringing someone. I just confirmed my attendance and asked if they needed me to bring anything. Just yourself, Mom said. And Emma, please try to be positive. Derek's girlfriend is very important to him. Dr. Mitchell and I prepared like it was a military operation. Don't defend me immediately, I told him over planning coffee at my house. Let them show you who they are first. I'm a surgeon, Emma. I have excellent observational skills and terrible patience for medical abuse. It's not abuse, I said. It's just ignorance. Deliberate ignorance is a choice, he said. And your father kicked your wheelchair. That crosses a line. He doesn't see it as kicking a wheelchair, I explained. He sees it as pushing me to try harder. Dr. Mitchell's jaw tightened. That's not how spinal injuries work. That's not how any of this works. I pulled out my documentation folder. 5 years of text messages, emails, and voicemails from my family. Stop using the wheelchair as a crutch. You could walk if you really wanted to. You're choosing to be disabled. Think about how this affects us. Dr. Mitchell read through them in silence, his expression growing darker. Emma, he said quietly. This is medical gaslighting. They're denying your diagnosis, questioning your pain, and blaming you for a disability you sustained in an accident. I know, I said. But they're my family. That makes it worse, not better. The night before Christmas, Dr. Mitchell texted, "Still want me to come?" I replied, "More than ever." Christmas Day arrived with snow and cold temperatures. The worst combination for my spine. I'd be in the wheelchair all day, no question. Dr. Mitchell picked me up at 2 p.m. in his Audi, which had more than enough space for my wheelchair. "Ready?" he asked. I've been ready for 5 years. My parents' house blazed with lights and decorations. Cars filled the driveway. Derek's truck, my aunt's SUV, cousins I saw once annually who all had opinions about my recovery. Dr. Mitchell helped me into my wheelchair and we approached the front door. Mom opened it, her smile freezing when she saw Dr. Mitchell. "Emma, you brought someone?" "This is Dr. Robert Mitchell," I said. "He's my friend. And my orthopedic surgeon." "Your surgeon?" Mom's eyes widened. "Emma, this is a family gathering, not a medical appointment." "He's here as my friend," I said calmly. We entered the crowded living room. 17 relatives turned to stare. Derek spotted us immediately and rushed over, his girlfriend trailing behind. "Emma, Merry Christmas." He hugged me awkwardly, still not comfortable with the wheelchair after 5 years. "This is Ashley. She's the administrative director at County General Hospital." Ashley smiled politely. Then she saw Dr. Mitchell and her expression shifted. "Dr. Mitchell? From University Medical Center." "Hello, Ashley," Dr. Mitchell said pleasantly. "Small world. You two know each other?" Derek asked. "Dr. Mitchell runs the Orthopedic Research Program," Ashley said. "We've coordinated on several grant applications." My father appeared from the kitchen carrying drinks. He saw Dr. Mitchell and nearly dropped the glasses. "Robert." Dad's voice cracked. "Dr. Mitchell? What are you doing here?" "Alan." Dr. Mitchell shook his hand. "Good to see you. How's the knee?" "Fine, fine," Dad stammered. "But what? How do you know Emma?" "I'm her surgeon," Dr. Mitchell said simply. "Have been for 5 years." The room went quiet. Mom found her voice. "You've been Emma's doctor this whole time?" "Primary orthopedic surgeon," he confirmed. 4 spinal procedures, ongoing pain management and rehabilitation supervision. Derek frowned. "For procedures? Emma, you said you only had 1 surgery." "You never asked about the others," I said calmly. My father's face reddened. "Well, you're here now, doctor. Maybe you can explain to Emma that she needs to push through this disability. She's been in that wheelchair for 5 years." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Dr. Mitchell set down his drink very carefully. "Mr. Peterson," he said, his voice professionally cold. "Emma has a permanently damaged L4 vertebra, titanium rod stabilization and chronic nerve damage. She's not in a wheelchair. She uses a wheelchair as a mobility aid on days when her pain levels make walking dangerous." "But surely with enough physical therapy," Mom began. "Emma does physical therapy 3 times a week," Dr. Mitchell interrupted. "She's done everything medically possible. Her disability is permanent. That's not a failure of effort. That's the reality of spinal cord injury." My father's face hardened. "With all due respect, doctor, we've been watching her for 5 years. She could try harder." I felt Dr. Mitchell tense beside me. "Time to intervene." "Dad," I said calmly. "Dr. Mitchell isn't just my surgeon." "What do you mean?" Dad demanded. I smiled. "Dr. Mitchell, would you like to tell them about your research program?" He caught on immediately, a slight smile crossing his face. "I run the Spinal Regeneration Research Program at University Medical Center," he said. "It's one of the largest spinal injury research initiatives in the country. We're developing treatments for exactly the kind of injury Emma sustained." Ashley, Derek's girlfriend, gasped. "The program funded by Apex Health Foundation?" The $2.3 million grant. That's the one, Dr. Mitchell confirmed. That's the largest medical research grant in the state, Ashley said, clearly impressed. My father waved dismissively. That's wonderful, doctor. But what does that have to do with Emma being lazy? This was it. The moment I'd been building toward for 5 years. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. I turned the screen toward my father. This, I said, showing him an email from Apex Health Foundation with my signature at the bottom. I approved that grant. I'm the Director of Medical Research Funding at Apex. I manage $47 million in annual medical research grants. The room went completely silent. Derek's mouth fell open. You're what? Director of Medical Research Funding, I repeated. Salary $165,000 annually. Plus performance bonuses. I've held the position for 18 months. My mother sank onto the couch. Emma, that can't be right. You don't work. I work from home, I corrected. 50 hours a week. I just do it in adaptive clothing from my wheelchair when my spine can't support standing. Dr. Mitchell added quietly, Emma personally recommended my research program for funding. She wrote the evaluation brief that convinced the foundation board to approve $2.3 million. Her analysis of the cost-benefit ratio and potential impact was flawless. But my father looked genuinely confused. You said you couldn't work after the accident. No, I corrected. I said I couldn't return to my old job. So I built a new career. 3 graduate degrees, professional certifications, and 5 years of building expertise in healthcare funding. I pulled out more documentation. My employment contract, my investment portfolio summary, my publication credits in healthcare economics journals. My insurance settlement was $4.7 million. I invested it. Current portfolio value, $8.3 million. I own my house outright. I employ a personal physical therapist. I consult for 4 healthcare nonprofits on top of my foundation work. Ashley stared at me. You're the Emma Peterson who published Disability Economics in Medical Research Funding? You've read it? I asked. It's required reading in our administrative training, she said, looking stunned. You're kind of a legend in healthcare administration. Derek looked between me and Ashley. She's a legend? She revolutionized how we think about disability accommodation in medical research, Ashley said. Her work has influenced policy in 17 states. My father stood there, face pale, holding his drink like he'd forgotten what it was for. Why didn't you tell us? Mom whispered. I did tell you, I said evenly. 5 years ago I told you I was going back to school. You said I was wasting time. 3 years ago I told you I got a consulting position. You asked when I'd get a real job. 2 years ago I told you I was working in medical research funding. You said it sounded boring. I pulled out my phone again and opened my messages. Here, I said, reading aloud. Emma, when are you going to stop playing around and get serious about your future? That's from you, Dad, 6 months ago. I'd just been promoted to director. We didn't know it was that important, Mom said weakly. You didn't ask, I said. You just assumed I was lazy. That I was using my disability as an excuse. Dr. Mitchell spoke up, his voice cutting. Emma sustained her injury in an accident that wasn't her fault. She's undergone 4 major surgeries. She manages chronic pain every single day. And despite all of that, she's built a career that influences healthcare policy across the country. He looked at my father directly. And you kicked her wheelchair because you thought she was embarrassing you. The shame on Dad's face was almost painful to watch. Derek found his voice. Emma, I'm sorry. I had no idea. We all just thought. You thought I was broken, I finished. Because I use a wheelchair. Because I can't walk normally. Because my disability is visible and that makes you uncomfortable. Ashley stepped forward. Miss Peterson, I've read your work extensively. Would it be inappropriate to ask if Apex Foundation is accepting new grant applications? We have a rehabilitation program that could use your expertise. Email me, I said, handing her my business card. The one that said, Director of Medical Research Funding, Apex Health Foundation. Derek stared at the card like it was written in a foreign language. My father slowly set down his drink and walked over to me. Emma, he said quietly. I've been wrong about everything. Yes, I said simply. You have. Can you forgive me? I looked at him. At my mother sitting stunned on the couch. At Derek holding my business card. At 17 relatives who'd spent 5 years pitying me. That depends, I said. Are you sorry you kicked my wheelchair? Or are you sorry you kicked the wheelchair of someone successful? He flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? I asked. Would you have kicked it if you'd known I made more money than you? If you'd known I managed millions in research funding? If you'd known I was a published expert? The silence was answer enough. Dr. Mitchell touched my shoulder gently. Emma, we should go. I nodded. You're right. As we headed toward the door, my mother called out. Emma, please. Stay. We can talk about this. I turned back. We've been talking about this for 5 years, Mom. You just weren't listening. Dr. Mitchell and I had Christmas dinner at a nice restaurant instead. Other diners stared at my wheelchair, but the staff was perfectly professional and accommodating. How do you feel? Dr. Mitchell asked over dessert. Lighter, I said. And sad. Sad. I gave them 5 years to see me as more than my disability, I said. They chose not to. My phone buzzed continuously. Texts from Derek, from my mother, from various relatives. Derek, Emma, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Mom, please call me. We need to talk. Aunt Susan, I always knew you were smart, honey. I put my phone on silent. The next day, Derek showed up at my house. Emma, please, he said when I opened the door. I need to talk to you. I let him in. He stared at my home office. 3 monitors, adaptive desk setup, walls covered with certificates and published articles. This is where you work? He asked quietly. 50 hours a week, I confirmed. He sank onto my couch. I've been the worst brother. Yes, I agreed. You have. Ashley broke up with me, he said. I raised an eyebrow. Because of Christmas? She said anyone who treats their disabled sister like I treated you shows fundamental character flaws. He looked at me. She's right. She is, I said. Can I make it better? He asked. Can you? I countered. Or do you just want to look like you tried? He sat there for a long moment. I want to actually make it better. I don't know how. I pulled out Dr. Mitchell's card, the one for the hospital's family education program on disability support. Start here, I said. 6-week course. Learn what you should have learned 5 years ago. He took the card. Will you give me another chance after? That depends on whether you actually change, I said. Or just learn to hide your ableism better. Derek enrolled in the program. So did my parents. It didn't fix everything. 5 years of damage doesn't heal in 6 weeks. But 3 months later, Derek called me with a different tone in his voice. Emma, I just finished the course, he said. Can I take you to lunch? I want to apologize properly. We met at a fully accessible restaurant, his choice. I've been learning about invisible disabilities and chronic pain, he said. And I'm horrified at how we treated you. Good, I said. You should be. I want to do better, he said. Really better. Not just performatively better. Over the next 6 months, Derek proved it. He researched accessible venues before family events. He asked about my pain levels without judgment. He corrected relatives when they made ableist comments. My parents struggled more. They attended the program but kept slipping into old patterns. You just seem so capable, Mom said during one difficult conversation. It's hard to remember you're disabled. I am capable, I said. And I'm disabled. Those things aren't contradictory. Ashley surprisingly became an ally. She and Derek got back together after he completed the program and showed genuine change. Your sister's work is brilliant, she told Derek at a family gathering 6 months later. I implemented 3 of her recommendations at County General. Derek looked at me with something like pride. Emma's pretty amazing. It was the first time he'd said that in 5 years. Dr. Mitchell's research program published its first major breakthrough 18 months after that Christmas. A treatment protocol that reduced chronic pain in spinal injury patients by 40%. We couldn't have done this without your funding, he told me at the publication celebration. You couldn't have done it without your brilliance, I corrected. I just allocated the money. You did more than that, he said. You believed in research that directly addressed your own condition. That takes vision. 2 years after that Christmas, My father had a second knee surgery. Dr. Mitchell performed it. Afterward, Dad called me from recovery. Emma, he said groggily from the anesthesia. I finally understand. Understand what, Dad? The pain, he said. The helplessness. The way people look at you differently when you can't do what you used to do. Welcome to my world, I said gently. I'm sorry, he said. Really truly sorry. Not because you're successful. Because I was wrong. Because I hurt you. I know, I said. Thank you. It wasn't perfect forgiveness. But it was real. And sometimes real is enough. 3 years after that Christmas, Apex Health Foundation promoted me again. Vice President of Strategic Research Initiatives. Salary, $215,000. I gave the keynote speech at the National Spinal Cord Injury Conference. 2,000 attendees. My family sat in the third row. All of them. When I finished my speech about resilience, adaptation, and refusing to let disability define your limits, they stood and applauded with everyone else. Afterward, my father approached my wheelchair carefully. He'd learned to ask before touching it. Emma, he said. I'm proud of you. I should have said that 5 years ago. You're saying it now, I replied. That matters. Dr. Mitchell appeared at my side, grinning. Excellent speech, Madam Vice President. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. How's the research program? Thriving, he said. Thanks to a very generous renewed grant of $3.7 million. My mother's eyes widened. Emma, you funded that? I recommend funding, I corrected. The foundation board approves it. Based on your recommendation, Dr. Mitchell added. Which they've never rejected. Derek shook his head in wonder. My sister, the healthcare finance powerhouse. In a wheelchair, I added pointedly. In a wheelchair, he agreed. And brilliant because of who you are, not despite it. I smiled. You're learning. We went to dinner together. My whole family, Dr. Mitchell and Ashley, who'd become a genuine friend. The restaurant was fully accessible. Derek had researched it personally. As we sat together, laughing and talking, I realized something. I'd spent 5 years proving I was more than my disability. But the real victory wasn't their recognition of my success. It was my own refusal to be diminished by their doubt. I built an empire from a hospital bed. I changed healthcare policy from a wheelchair. I funded breakthrough research while managing chronic pain. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove myself right. That I was enough. Exactly as I was. Wheelchair, titanium rods, chronic pain and all.